All right, F1 Fantasy Friday, let's talk about those teams. We got a lot more data now with the first weekend completed, and this being a sprint weekend, so the sprint quality is before you gotta pick the teams. So what do we know now? Mercedes indeed built a rocket ship. It's very much like McLaren last year, where such a fast car sometimes hides the imperfections of the drivers. So even though the drivers, in my opinion, are not the top three, a fast car will accelerate easy to them to 1-2 unless they make mistakes in the race. But they're not Ferrari, so they're not going to make mistakes. So I think Mercedes absolutely has to be in your team. I personally now have Russell and Mercedes in my team. I would have got Antonelli in there as well, but I think it's financially impossible with the constraints that Fantasy has right now. So pick one Mercedes driver and get the Mercedes team for max points. But remember, F1 Fantasy, it's not always about the race results. There's all those extra points that I talked to you about, so you gotta be a little more strategic. But they're just gonna blow the competition for now so much that you gotta have them. So that takes other top 3 teams out of the question, so I don't think there's space for McLaren, even though they're pretty strong this weekend. There's no space for Ferrari, which again, have a very strong race start, but their strategy, man, I don't know, can't bank on that. And then you got the Red Bull, which is not that strong. They always make great improvements in those sprint weekends, but they're pretty expensive, with the exception of Isaac Hajar. I would personally pick him at 14.5 million. He's a pretty solid value, so I have him in my team as well, and that's my top 2 drivers, Russell and Hajar. Now, who not to pick? That's obviously Cadillac, being still very fresh in F1, they're figuring things out. Aston Martin have built an undrivable car for now. It has a lot of potential, but for now, definitely not the car to pick. And Williams, even though they have a rocket ship engine in that car, it's still very heavy, it loses a lot of time, so for now, until they develop that car into mid-season, it is not a car to pick. So who do you pick from the mid teams? That goes a little bit with your personal preference. Haas is very strong. Oli Bearman is probably the top mid driver right now, so I definitely have him in my team, but Haas as a team, I personally wouldn't pick. Alpine has shown really strong progress, especially with Gasly, so you could choose Gasly. He's a little bit expensive for 12 million, so I would personally pick between him and Hajar, but I've picked Alpine so many times in the last season, they got burnt every single time when they were doing strong, and then they had the DNF or crash or something else happen, so feel free to pick Gasly, but I wouldn't do that in my team. Oh, and besides, I don't like Flavio as a manager. I think 2026 has no space for such a manager, so out of my league. Audi is my strong preference in that mid-pack. I think they built a really strong car, and I like both Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. Bortoleto is a little cheaper, but Hülkenberg is more consistent, so I have Hülkenberg in my team. Racing Bulls are really strong as well. I would have probably picked Audi over Racing Bulls in my second team, but I already picked Racing Bulls at last race, and I don't want to lose too many points with the substitutions, so I'll keep the Racing Bulls there, but my personal preference is Audi. But Lindblad is still a very strong pick, very undervalued. I think a good driver to have to build your resources in F1 as he keeps building up value. It'll keep bringing resources, and maybe mid-season you swap him for someone else. So that's your Shanghai F1 Fantasy. Good luck, let me know how you did, and let's win some.